Welcome to the CannaConversations blogcast, part video blog, part podcast, aimed to bridge the gap between the cannabis industry and the patients it serves. Join the ladies of Midwest Canna Concierge as they bring everyone to the table, from cultivation experts and dispensary staff to lawyers, doctors, and medical marijuana patients, to have open conversations around all things cannabis related.
So Candy, who is Candy Flores, she's from Texas, Corpus Christi, Texas. She has been in the industry. So she works actually for CBD. It's like Lucky Leaf Expo. I did a little bit of reading into it. They're primarily out west, but I think there's a show coming to Michigan actually pretty soon, or sometime within the next year. And she's also developing a company called Pearl of Texas, with a friend of hers, or her business partner. She also actually just, I guess, co-published. I don't know if she published, but she co-authored a book, Courage in Cannabis, that I'll have to put a link to.
Very cool.
I just saw after we recorded the episode, I saw that on her social media that she had released that book. So I think from what I remember, she told me it's like a story of, I think, 12 different people and coming from all different perspectives, all different parts of the country, sharing their story. Each of them has a chapter and sharing their story about gaining their courage with cannabis, I guess.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. I'm interested. I told her I want a copy of that. I'll have to snag a copy. But she told me she became ill in 2008. She didn't necessarily give me a diagnosis of any type. I don't think her story is heart-wrenching. The struggles that she went through and the ups and downs and the defeat, you can see it. You can see her demeanor change in the video. You can watch in the beginning, you just see how like deflated she is, telling the history of where she was before she found cannabis and the procedures that she had to go through, all the countless medication trials, the failed devices that she had a couple I remember that, or something that she kept having to have replaced, and finally they just like took it out and they were just gonna like put her back on this medication, and she had reached a point where she was just like, I've already tried all of this and this is not working. And I think she said that was in 2016 was her last surgery.
She had been dealing with it for
so over
long.
8 years. Yeah.
Wow.
And she was in the medical field prior to this. She eventually had to give up her job because of the pain she was in and her inability to work. She was obviously hitting a very dark depression as well, because how can you not be, as your life's being
no kidding
taken from you and nobody seems
in
to
pain
all the time, and feeling like nothing's going to fix it, and that this is just what it is, and like how can you live that way? And she talks about how it impacted her, not only her but her family. Like her kids were in school at this age and she was like kind of going downhill. And one story she shares in the show, in the episode is that she's in the process of buying a house, and they were working with this realtor and builder these two women business partners. One's a realtor, one's a builder, and they're working with these women. And long story short, the realtor woman had met Candy back years ago when she was in the height of her battle of what was going on, and she was like blown away that she was still alive. Like she had to come and make sure that this was like actually her, because she's like, I didn't know you were alive.
Oh my goodness.
How? And you could see it in Candy's face. Like, you don't realize when you're in that place, you're doing everything you can to mask it. So to hear from an outsider who doesn't see you all the time, to see that she saw how bad it was,
the pain, that even if she was trying to hide it,
and so she said that was kind of a moment for her where and I go, I don't blame you. That's
right.
kind of surreal because you do what you can to hide it. But so yeah, she had some really interesting perspective to share because in Texas, their program's just getting up and running. So she said that a friend of her, I'm sorry, her husband's friend's wife or something gave her or sent her a sample of what I think was RSO. She couldn't tell me for sure, but the way she said that her husband just gave it to her on a toothpick and was like a really small drop. So I just made the assumption it was RSO because the woman who sent it to her had cancer or has cancer. She's still alive, so hopefully she's doing really well. But she had cancer and that's what she was treating with it. So she sent Candy a sample of this and she said it was like night and day. She goes, I couldn't believe it. This tiny little thing. And I started getting better. I started
Isn't
feeling
it crazy?
better.
Isn't it crazy when you're talking about RSO, Rick Simpson oil, and the amount that it takes to feel that way?
Yes.
Is like minuscule. It's just literally like, you know, they say like a grain of rice or whatever. Of course, it depends upon your tolerance.
Well,
and all
yeah, and
that.
she said she was giving it to him, or he was giving it to her on a toothpick. She's like on the tip of the toothpick. He would just like
just a little teeny bit,
a tiny little bit, yeah. And so I had asked her then. That would have been January 2017, I think she said, and I asked her about like where she is now, and it's just really interesting. I keep forgetting that this, I don't want to give it all away because this is gonna.
Yeah. So definitely watch.
Listen.
Whoever is out there watching our CannaConversations, please take a look at those videos.
Yeah, check them out. Because
let's talk about Canna Jam.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us. Well, okay, so we had the inaugural Canna Jam. And it was super awesome because
really
CannaConversations was there representing our services. And there were quite a few
so
people.
I know I told you this prior to the event, but this was like the biggest tent or the biggest like setup that I have ever been a part of.
Is that right?
At least in respect of like being the person being the company,
sure.
like I've helped out, like I entered for a radio station. I have helped out at bigger functions, and my sister has put on several charity things that I've worked at in that respect. However, to be there with that big, like we had really good traffic. Like we had
my goodness,
really good turnout. Granted, we were like selling concessions. Well, that my dog needs to come.
Sure, but guess what? That is
Abby needed to join.
Yes, that is what got partially. That's what got the traction over there. Right. And that's always what you do as an event is you try to find ways to what a cutie. You always try to find ways to entice the folks to come to your booth.
Right.
And that's what we did.
Yeah.
So, we had how many signups for newsletters?
43.
Okay, wonderful. Yes. And so we had a great time. We took a lot of pictures. We're going to be posting some of those on the website, I'm sure.
Yep.
And
I need to make a page I'll have to put a page up just for like event recaps.
Yeah, right. That would be a great idea. And then of course we're looking forward to the next year and any others that have come
I don't know. Are there any like winter events that we would want to do? I don't know. I'm not.
There are a couple of events.
I am not very functionable in the winter. I don't.
Yeah, it's kind of tough in the winter
when it gets gray.
Yeah, I know.
So, if you want to introduce yourself and kind of give me a little bit of information about kind of who you are and what you do.
Okay. Well, I'm Candy. I'm from Texas. I live in Corpus Christi. I'm a proud cannabis user. As an adolescent and all my early adulthood, I, was raised and it was a drug. So I became ill with some medical conditions, I believe, in maybe 2008. So before then, I had never been really sick, so I didn't see a doctor. So then once I started seeing the doctor, I was in the medical field at the time, so I trusted, it was like, okay, well, I'm going to see the doctor. And so one thing led to another, diagnosis after diagnosis, when they finally found the problem. And so at that point, I was given medication after medication. So I would say maybe a couple of years, 1 to 2 years, I was already on full-blown opiates, with from Oxycontin to, the Norco and fentanyl and the sprays, they had already tried everything. So it was still, my body was still rejecting it, and it wasn't taking all my pain away. So still very ill. That was causing other medical issues. So at that point, I was introduced to, I was going to pain management. So they brought up, they did a trial basis with the neurostimulator, which didn't work. But
now that's something that's like implanted, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you had to go through like a procedure.
Yes, for the trial. And then since it didn't work, then of course, then the next step was the morphine pump. So I went through with it and had that major, that one was a little bit, major, because they were leaving it on for long term. I believe that I had that pump for 5 years. In between, I was on morphine 24/7 internally. I'd go in and get my refills, and it would last about, I guess, 3 months. And I also had a bolus dose for in between breakthrough pain, and as well as oral dose. So it was working at the time, but of course, the grogginess and then all the side effects with it.
Sure. Did you then get put on a bunch of different smaller medications to cope with all those side effects? Sure.
Yes. So I was probably on about 15 medications at that time. And I'd walk around, I didn't leave home without my I had like a little credit. Yes.
What was your quality of life at that point?
It was horrible.
Yeah.
I'd have to say we had to adjust and learn to just understand that it was going to be my lifestyle now. So
there's probably a period of mourning at that point, right? That you and your family are going through and dealing with that.
Yes. And I felt like it was something I had to go through, not only when I became ill, but when this happened, it was like, okay, this is who I am now. I am opiate dependent, because pretty much if not, I wasn't going to be able to get around and so forth. So I had gone through some weight loss, and my pump was really shifted, and it was causing other complications with even just physically, moving or. So I went back to the neurosurgeon, and they were going to go in to revise it. This was, I believe, I had already had it for 5 years. So when I went in for the revision, we had some complications, and he made some errors, and I ended up having to have it replaced instead of revised. So of course I was under, so I had no call. Let's see, the first surgery on the revision was scheduled. It was like August 2016. I believe it was the 21st. because I lost my dad on the 29th. So those dates are like, it was something that
for you.
I would never forget.
Sure.
So I want to say like 5 days. No, I guess 5 days out of the surgery, my incision started opening, and I was told to, it was normal. My body was reacting. I said, no, this is not a reaction. Like, this is full blown, like my clothes is full of blood. So anyway, they ended up having me go back into the office. They couldn't figure out why my body was reacting like that, because I had already had it before, but it was the errors that were done during surgery that were reacting. So my body was rejecting it. So they sewed me up in the office, closed it full blown, just no anesthesia, no nothing. It was the worst. My husband,
that had to be so traumatic for you.
Yes. And not only myself, but my husband was watching, and he was just like,
oh God,
almost in tears, because he was like seeing the pain and, and just
feeling so helpless. And
yeah. So anyway, I thought, okay, I didn't think anything of it, because I thought, okay, maybe, my body is rejecting it, but I had hope because I was dependent on it. Anyway, then I lost
at that point, what kind of alternatives were they even giving you at that point? Were there any?
No. It was basically, this is what's helped you, and this is, and not only that it was helping me, but it was keeping me off the oral medications that they were trying not to give me so much of. But I was getting it internally. So
what's the difference?
Yes. I wasn't too familiar with the outcome when I was going to have it removed, or what was going to happen if in this case, when I had to have it removed. So I was knowledgeable as far as going through like withdrawals and so forth, but I had never experienced it or seen it close, so I guess I had never seen it hit home.
Mm-hmm. What you had mentioned that you were in the medical field prior to all of this, but what were you doing in the medical field? Like, were you handling with patient focus or with patients?
In the beginning of my career, I was with patients. Towards the end, when I did get ill and I wasn't able to work anymore, I was managing a pediatric billing department, and so oversaw 3 offices. So my job was stressful. And anyway, I had to end up losing my job because I couldn't work full time. So back to the pain, how I started with cannabis was from August through December. I had back to back every 6 weeks or every 4 to 6 weeks. As soon as they were able to go back in, that I would be healthy enough, because at that point I really couldn't walk. I was using a walker. And
had it gotten infected, or had you had to
it was
imagine
horrible. Internally, because you could see the physical infection coming out and visually, but the feeling of feeling it inside was the worst.
Yes.
So between August and December, it was just back to back. I ended up having 4 surgeries. At that time, I saw no hope. I just said, remove it all. And I wasn't thinking what was going to happen. I just knew that my body was in so much pain. And if it wasn't going to help me, I just wanted it out. So they ended up removing it. And they basically said, after going back in and surgery after surgery, and they basically, it's like, we can do oral medication. But I already knew that I had already gone through all that and it wasn't working for me. So I kind of gave up. And when they said there was nothing they could do if I wasn't going to take it orally. And so the last surgery was December, 21st, right before Christmas. I went through the holiday, and I said, okay, Like I was on the nasal spray, back on nasal spray, back on patches, back on, a whole bunch of different opiates. And at that point, that's when I said, I don't want to go back. Like, I don't want to live this life anymore. So I just completely, said, okay, if I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that, because it's the same family. So it was just so severe that I was depressed. And, at that point, I was willing to try anything. Absolutely. Mind you,
and what year was this? You said right before Christmas, but what year was it?
Yes. So that was 2016. December 2016 was the last surgery. In January 2017, I was ready to, I said, I want to do something different. I can't, if I want to fight for my life, like I need to do something. Well, we had a family friend who saw how much pain I was in, or heard. Actually, we've never met because we're friends through our husbands. She sent me, she's a cancer survivor. So she sent me some of her product, or not her product, but her personal use.
Yeah, sure.
Shared with me and said, it'll help you. So at that point, I was willing to try anything. Even though I knew, or I thought, because I was raised, it was a drug. And I thought, well, I've already been on all these drugs, trying to do it the medical way. So why not give it a shot? So I did. And it basically, it worked. My words exactly were, why didn't anyone help me before, or what took so long to get this help? Because I wasn't educated on it, and I didn't know anything about it. Our kids are grown, so they were, in high school and in college. And I thought, every time that they would come home, or if they would go out, I was raised that it was a drug, so I would get after them. And I would, sometimes I'd say, like, if you come home smoking like weed, or I can smell it, you're going to have to find somewhere to live, and I'm going to kick you out of the house. And because that was the stigma.
I grew up with those same beliefs.
Yeah.
Because that's how my parents responded. I was traumatized. Like I would yell at my best friend whenever she told me that she was high, because I was terrified that she was going to get in trouble and not be able to hang out with me. Like it wasn't even, the things we're taught.
So it was a big,
that's a hard thing to break
for me to take, and to actually, but it was amazing. It was probably the best decision of my life. Now I'm able to live normal, but since I live in Texas and it wasn't legal, I tried, and I tried like a high dose of CBD as well, because I knew that I wasn't going to be able to get that forever. It was just for me to try, and then I was going to have to figure out, how am I going to get it? Yeah. What am I going to do? Because I didn't want to buy something off the street.
And I was going to say that becomes a safety factor. Like, you don't know where it's coming from.
Exactly.
When you buy it like that.
So, at this point, my kids knew more about it than I did. But of course, no, they wouldn't dare talk to me about it, because they were going to get in trouble.
I was going to say, did you feel comfortable asking them about it?
So then now here I am asking them like questions. And, so at that time we went to, we went to different, we don't have very many shops here. So we went to some smoke shops to try and see what type of CBD, the highest CBD was what I could get here, just because I knew I only had a little bit and I was going to be running out. And, so
at that point, once you experience that relief, it's like heartbreaking to consider giving that up.
Yes.
To think about having to go back to where it was now that you found something. Sure. Exactly. I could only imagine yeah.
Especially because I had gone through such severe withdrawals to where I had given up. I was, I thought this was it, I'm ready. And, them sending you home, having to take you in an ambulance because of withdrawals, and then sending you home. And, you basically, it's something that you have to deal with, you and your family. So
now what is the support? I know up here, we have a very large opioid crisis up here. And I know it's countrywide, but the amount of support opportunities up here, I don't know if that's as common in other, like, is there a support system down there for people that are experiencing that?
No, I mean, or not that I knew of. I mean, and at that point, I was just so severe. Like I'm going through all those surgeries, I could barely walk. I was in bed. I really wouldn't get out of bed. If I got out of bed, it was just in the house. And my husband, and actually I didn't smoke it. I didn't know, he would give it to me on a toothpick and just a little bitty dot. And it was, then finally I started walking and I started,
So the oil, you got some, it was oil that she had sent you?
No, it was actually more of, I honestly, till this day, I don't know exactly what it was, but now that I've been doing more of my testimony, and now that I'm a co-author in an anthology book, I'm going to reach out to, because she's not in the same city that I'm in. Mm-hmm. So I want to reach out to her, and and of course I'll never forget her, because if it wasn't for her, because it was a higher dose.
I bet she would love to hear from you, to know that she was the one that helped get you on this journey, because I tell her all the time, because I've helped her in other ways, but mm-hmm. I just, with all this COVID and everything, I'm like, I'm going to reach out to her just to remind her how, because I would have never really tried it, because I know they brought me they brought it to me first they brought me like a joint, and I thought, and this is my kids, because they saw how much, they're like, Mom, it's going to help you. And I tried it, and it wasn't the same. I guess I do have endocrinology problems with my endocrine system. So I don't know, at that point, I didn't know about the endocannabinoid system. I didn't know anything. I just knew that it helped me, and I was going to do what I had to heal myself naturally. But so I don't know, I have to ask, and that's something that I'm going to do. It's especially because I know I have other, things that I'm going to be doing with podcasts and for our book. So I do want to find out. Now I'm thinking exactly what, because I just knew it was cannabis, and I suspect if he was able to give it to you on like a toothpick, I would think it would be like similar to Rick Simpson oil, that more syrupy type consistency.
Yes, because it was kind of like tarry,
Yep.
And
okay. So it's a very, very highly concentrated dose, but it's going right in, so you're not having to.
So I was like, I need this form. This is what I need.
What is Texas law now, or like how has it changed for you to be able to get access?
I just got a medical card this year. It's been about 3 months. But
so do you have dispensaries and stuff down there?
We not that I've gone to personally, because they deliver it to you.
Oh, that's nice.
And we don't have like a medical card to where, like in other states, because I travel as well with the cannabis industry for that. I do like Lucky Leaf Expo. So, I've gone to different areas that are legal, and,
to share your story you're doing now.
Well, it's just all in the same industry, and I've just met so many people, and that's my passion. Like, it's like, I'm just so driven, and I'm ready to, it's not something that
I didn't even know you back then, but to see the difference in how you are smiling now in comparison to reflecting on what you felt like back then is like, I'm like I'm getting emotional about it, because you can just see it in how you hold yourself, because you just feel so much better.
Yes, that's why I have so much passion for it, and I want to help others. Because the people that I've helped along the way, just with myself, because I learned how to make my own butter, and I said, I am going to change my life, so I cook my food, or, whatever I had to do at home for myself. Well, along the way, people have seen the difference, because the first year I was ashamed. I didn't want anybody to know it. so I just studied it and learned and read more on it, and, whatever I could just to learn on it, because this was going to be my new life. And, I loved it because I was actually normal again.
Right.
Or I felt as
you felt like you could be your best self. You felt like you could show up. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. I think that's what it takes. I had a similar experience, same type of thing. Not to that extent. I had back surgery in 2014 and was constantly prescribed medications and all of that. Mm-hmm. But the stigma about even bringing it up to your doctor or trying to talk to your medical team about it or anybody about it, that's a very hard subject to broach with a lot of people, because they feel so intimidated, or their doctors threaten to withhold medications or this, that, or whatever. And I think that that's what it takes, is having people that have experienced it firsthand, especially because you are educated in the medical industry. You understand where they're coming from as a medical professional, but you also then took it upon yourself to educate yourself on how this is working for you and why this is the best option for you. And I think that my vision and my goal is that eventually the medical industry and medical professionals will start recognizing that this is a viable option for people. Sure, it's not for everybody. I would never ever claim that this is the path for everybody, but it is a path for some people, and it's a safer path for a lot of people.
Yes. And then it's got so many benefits, the whole plant. So it's like, I share that because I'm like, okay, cannabis may not be for you, but CBD may help, CBG may help, and
I think so that a lot of people, they think cannabis is only THC, and it's so much more than that. There's so much more than that.
Yeah. And I know that you were mentioning, how you were touched by, this is just like a tad of my story, but so yesterday we're in the middle of moving, and so we met with a builder, and it's a female group, it's a builder and a realtor, and they're a team. So when we met, and I said, I've met you before. I don't recall if it was visually or, on the phone, but I said, I've seen your work. I said, and I told her friend's name. I said, she was our neighbor, and that's how I met you. I said, I don't recall when or any, I can't tell you, or you may not remember. I said, but I just know I know you, or I've met you. I've talked to you within the same house or whatever. I said, so, and she's like, really small world, blah, blah, blah. So she tells her partner on her way, because we're going to see another house in a different area. And we said, she's like, it's not complete, but you're welcome to come see it. So we were like, let's go. So then her partner shows up. We hear something, and it's under construction. So I hear something. I'm like, oh, I think someone's here. Like, I wasn't expecting it. So she walks in and she says, Candy, and she's like, and I'm like, Lori, like, so I just, because I hadn't seen her in so long, but the point of the story is that she says, I didn't know you were alive. She says, you were so sick.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So sad. I felt just like, wow, like it was very touching, because I was like, because you don't
realize. Sure. I was going to say, you don't realize that other people were picking up on where you were.
Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, like, and
because as the patient in that position, you do everything you can to mask that. You are conditioned to mask that for people, and then
I was like, no, I was like, I'm here, and I told her, I told her. She says, what? She's like, you just look like a whole new person, and I hadn't seen her in years. I've seen her in on the road, or it's small world. She ended up she lives across the street from my brother, and I see her at times and I wave, but she didn't
put two and two together. Oh my gosh.
So when she saw me, she had to go in person to make sure that it was me. So she shows up to see if it's me, and she's like, she starts telling me, and I just, at that point, I just said, yeah, I said, cannabis saved my life. And she was like, really? And she's just like, I'm so happy. She's like, I just want to hug you. And, and I just it felt amazing, knowing that, of course I felt again, like, okay, I had to thank cannabis again, because I mean,
and that you have to pass it on. Like, you want to be able to help other people because of the turnaround that you've made. That's exactly why I'm here for. I feel like that's probably all of our stories if we get to the root of it, is because, and that's my goal of the show, is to be able to put all these stories out there, because it is those people that are like, I mean, I might want to look at it, but I'm not quite sure yet. And I want them to hear these stories, because
and there's so many
such a difference
that still, they're like, oh no, so now,
especially people afraid of losing their jobs, or that are afraid of some kind of reprimand or whatever.
Yes, or a family member, a loved one, or a spouse or a child, or so my life kind of turned around, and I thought, like, now I'm asking my kids about, or when I first started, now, I've learned more on it, and people come to me for, on questions on it. So it's been, I guess, 2017, so 18, 19. So it's been about 2-3 years that I've been planning and wanting to open my own business, a CBD shop, or just some type of wellness, so I got into Lucky Leaf. What happened was I wanted to learn more on it. I wanted to move to Colorado because it was legal there, and the weather is just, for myself, for my medical conditions, it was just very, very, I felt even better there. So
that's how I feel in California, but I don't want to pay California living, but that's how I feel in California. So I kind of lost train of thought, but you were going to move to Colorado.
So then we moved there for a month because of COVID. My husband had lost his job and so forth. We moved there for a month. My husband gets a job back in Texas, so we had to move back to Texas. So at that point, I thought, wow, like I have to be, I'm going to be illegal again. Like, I'm like, what am I going to do? Like, I was really looking forward to it. So I was driving home from Colorado, separately, because I still had the apartment there. So I was traveling back, and I see this sign, and it says, Lucky Leaf Expo. And I just saw the cannabis plant. I honestly, and in Texas, you really don't see that. So I'm driving, I won't forget, because,
it instantly caught your attention.
Yes. And I was driving on the highway in San Antonio, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm going to remember that. So I just look at my watch and I click it, and the last person that I messaged got the message, and I just said, Lucky Leaf Expo. So then, anyway, because when I got back, my son's like, Mom, what's Lucky Leaf Expo? He's like, you send me, what does that mean? And I was like, oh, I'm going to need that information. I said, because I want to look into it. I saw this sign, and the cannabis plant attracted me. Like, I want to know what it is. I want to know what it's about. So I signed up to volunteer. I was registering because I wanted to attend, because I wanted to go see the speakers, and they had very good topics. And so I saw that they needed volunteers. So, and I thought, I want to do this. Like, anything that'll, because of the cannabis industry, and especially if it's in Texas, like they're going to be in Austin. And so I registered, and then I also, at the same time, I said, well, did I volunteer? I didn't know what I was going to volunteer for, but I'm volunteering. As long as I'm around people that, share the same passion. So I went, and anyway, so make a long story short, I started traveling with them as a contract employee. And so I've been traveling with them and learning a lot more, meeting a lot of different people. And I I got the resources and I met a lot of people. And so now I'm like, okay, my dream's almost there. Like I've got to, so now I opened up, I'm founder of Pure Life, Pure Wellness, which will be getting certifications, and so that way I can do consulting in order to help. My goal is to help other shops, educate them, because I don't want to stop there. I want to keep going, keep learning more, and bring more to the community, and to the people that could benefit from it. And so I met my business partner there, and she's got a story behind it too. And we met, we had, mind you, we were both there for the same reasons. We both signed up to volunteer just because, we had the same drive, the same, passion. And so we ended up becoming business partners. So I'm co-founder of Pearl of Texas. So it's Pearl of Texas CBD we're doing a CBD wellness shop where we haven't opened yet, and we haven't launched our product. Our website's under construction.
You'll have to send it to me when you do. Send it to me.
Yeah. So it's, we've got our product in, because we're waiting on our logo, and everything was kind of like prolonging, but finally we've got our logo, we've got our product. Now we're working on our premium line, because there's certain, people that we're trying to help that, so we not only are users, but we have both studied and we'll sample our own products and make sure, because I wouldn't want, I would have liked to have that help when I first started.
Sure.
So
you're walking right into my last question, is what piece of advice you would give patients just getting started?
Trust. If someone has or is a user, a medical patient, or any type of struggle that they've had, trust them, and even if you have to approach them, because at times, I know, like I share it all the time now, but because now I'm comfortable with it.
Right.
The first year, you wouldn't have even heard that I was using it, or
no. I kept mine a secret because my family, there was no one in my family who would even
exactly
they could barely wrap their mind around my condition, let alone what I was doing to manage it. And so until you have that foundation and you are comfortable enough in that foundation and that education to actually like stand back up to that person who's gonna question it, then it's hard. So you do. I get living in silence for a while.
Yes, exactly. And the mask, you're masking because you don't, and not. So now that I'm public with it, and I'm comfortable with it, and that I'm, familiar with it, and I'm willing to, I want to help others, and I just want to keep going. I see that we still get judged a lot, but it's worth it. I feel like
because you're able to advocate for it with that knowledge that you have, which is ultimately helping to shift the stigmas, because you're going to help break those stereotypes that so many people still carry.
Yes. So just recently, like within these past 2-3 weeks, my mom just barely opened up to it. And I have her, on CBD, and I'm, showing her how I microdose, and, so it's coming along really well, because I see that they're catching on there,
Sure.
I'm like, and I don't push it on anyone. I just want them to know that it's good, it's natural. It'll help you. And even with things that you think that you don't think you need help with,
right.
I
like to tell people, I don't think people understand the endocannabinoid system and how well balanced it can help. If you get that balanced, you feel balanced.
Yes. So I really, really want to share more with our area, because sure. I know that, we're not as familiar with it. And so now that
conservative
on the knowledge, I want to share with them. I'm like, there's enough customers and people for everyone. Like, absolutely. I'm not trying to take, I wouldn't want to take, or, but there's enough for all of us. Let's all get educated.
Absolutely.
So we could help everybody.
I don't know if you've ever heard I heard it from my boss at the dispensary, but I have since heard it in several podcasts and used around the industry. So I don't know if you've heard this or not, but a high tide raises all boats, or a high tide raises all ships, however you want to say it.
I've heard something like that.
Yeah.
With the high tide. I'm not sure exactly.
We're all working towards the same thing. We're all working for the same effort. So at some point, I'm sure there's some type of level of competition, but in my opinion, if we're all for it, then the more the merrier.
and some products are, some dispensaries don't have this, but this one has that, and some
things work for some people and not everything.
Exactly. Yeah.
So.
Yes, most definitely. So I'm excited. We actually just found our business space, and we should be getting hopeful, I guess. So now with everything, the building being built out, so hopefully I'm hoping for November.
That's so exciting.
But our website should be up and going here pretty soon. We just need to start. But now that we got the products, we'll start putting in the pictures.
Sure.
It'll be coming along a little faster.
Yes, it is. I totally get that. So where can people find you then? I know you said your website for your business is not necessarily up and running, but if people wanted to find your story or you to connect with you in your area.
If they'd like to connect with me in my area, I would say they could find me on Instagram. They could either with the Pure Life, Pure Wellness, or Pearl of Texas CBD. I think it's listed Pearl of Texas CBD on Instagram.
Okay. I might have you send me the.
Okay, yeah, I'll send you the link.
That way I can make sure to link to the right one.
Okay. Yes, perfect.
I was gonna say I have your Instagram, but if you want to send me the Instagram for the other one, that would be great.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Perfect.
It's Pearl of Texas, like Pearl.
Yes, and our website is pearloftx.com. But I'll send you that information and so forth. But yeah, I know our website is pearloftx.com.
Okay.
It's still under construction and they go in there, but
that's okay. At least they'll have it so that they can keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
Because I know that, Texas is huge. My cousin actually lives in Dallas, Texas. He just opened a business down there. Nothing to do with cannabis. He makes sandwiches, but he loves it. And I've never been to Texas, and he loves it. So yeah, one day I plan to visit. I just have not made it down there yet. I've hit, I think, 27 or 28 of 50 states, and Texas hasn't been one of them yet. But since my cousin's there, now I have your list. Yeah, so now I have somewhere to go and visit and check out. So yes, I'm happy to hear that they're opening up a little bit more.
Yes, as far as
to the idea.
I hear it's about a year or so, but a lot of patients don't. And that's another thing that I do want to share is that we can get our medical cards here. It's just, you've got to, it's there. You just have to make sure, find the right people to guide you. And that's something that
I was going to say, and that's something that you can help them with.
Yeah, just to help them. I know that we don't have any dispensaries here yet, like in our area. I believe that you can only use the ones that are, I believe there's one in Austin and in Dallas. And I want to say I heard one popped up in Katy just recently.
Are Texas patients allowed to home grow or to make their own medicine?
No.
We aren't either. Ohio's not either.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
I was just curious. So people have to travel people have to travel quite a ways to get anything then, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So
hopefully that goes smooth. That grows faster than.
Yes. Hopefully within the year. Hoping.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Most definitely right now we'll work with what we have.
Sure.
We personally at Pearl of Texas carry the CBD, CBG, CBN. We'll have the Delta 8, Delta 10. So
you guys have quite a bit then. It's just the higher THCs that you won't have.
Yes.
And if we're using it medicinally, then that's not necessarily the greatest path.
Exactly.
I think that's a super common misconception with a lot of patients. And I've had this conversation many a times, but so often I would get patients that would come into the dispensary and just ask for like the highest THC and not even pay attention to any of the terpenes or the other cannabinoids that were in it, and then get upset that they didn't get the effect that they were looking for. And I don't think that people can fully wrap their mind around that there's more than THC, and there's more than THC and CBD. Like there's way broader of a picture than we have to look at. So I didn't even think.
I remember going into the dispensaries and I was like, I wanted the highest THC percentage as well, because
and the overwhelm of looking at all the different products, and you're like, I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't have a clue. So it's important that I know that it's hit or miss up here about dispensary staff having that education to be able to educate patients on it. Hopefully down there you get trained staff that's there that knows that.
And that's a big plus, because you want to feel comfortable. You want to be able to
trust what they're telling you.
And so you don't feel, and that's another thing. I don't want them to feel like I did when I first walked in. And as I've read, so many other people feel the same way, because they're not comfortable asking. Some of them don't want to ask.
Yeah, because they feel that used to be one of my favorites. I've seen that book before.
Cannabis.
I've seen that book before. I love it.
Yes, it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, when I first started reading it, I couldn't put it down.
This is one of my favorite ganja related books, but Ganja Yoga. I don't know if you've ever heard of her, of Dee. But she has all kinds of she has a playlist to help you zen and how to use cannabis for your yoga and spiritual practices.
Oh, I had to look her, share that information with
absolutely.
With me, I want to be able to incorporate all that.
Yeah.
We want to be a different type of shop.
Sure.
So we have a lot of new things that we'll be incorporating.
Yeah, I'll send you the website, because there might even be a ganja yoga instructor that would come do pop-up classes for you at your shop.
And that's exactly what we wanted to have. We have several people that are going to be coming in and doing the Reiki healing and teaching them how to meditate and just different, all the same family. And
we also have classes, not here, but in Michigan, they classes called Puff and Paint, where the kind of like the wine and canvas, but I saw
that in Oklahoma.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yes. So that would be another fun night to have a paint event.
We've got a lot of.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I'm so excited for you. I can't wait for you to get in and open. You'll have to, I'll have to keep me updated.
Yes. And I'll definitely keep you posted. We just started writing, so September, October we write, November is editing, so the book should be published in December.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
So it's similar to this, but our title would be Courage in Cannabis.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
I'm assuming all about building your confidence in your cannabis practice and kind of advocating.
Every author will have their title for their chapter, so everyone's going to be different, because we've got from patients to caregivers to growers to oh
my gosh, I can't wait.
Doctors,
I will definitely be ordering this book.
Yes, most definitely, and we'll have some podcasts coming on here soon.
Let me know if you're sending out autographed copies.
I will. I've had several dispensaries ask for me to let them know once it's published, because they'd like to sell it at their store.
Oh, that's so cool. We would.
Yeah. So I'm excited.
So how many different authors will there be in this book then?
I believe we're 12 authors.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah. So
and I love it because it'll come from so many different perspectives.
Yes, and we're all from different areas. I think the closest one to me is Dallas. Wow. So
all in Texas though?
No.
Okay, so all over.
Yes, all over. We even have one in Canada. So
their laws are so much better than ours.
Yes,
their laws are so much easier than ours.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, good. I'm so glad that you jumped on and wanted to chat with me. I'm sorry that Kelsey and Amanda couldn't join. Kelsey's still a working pharmacist, so she is actually at her full-time pharmacy gig right now, and Amanda is running clinics for her doctor's office right now. So they weren't able to join, but they are very excited to hear your story. I had Amanda texting me all morning, eager to hear. So we're very happy that you were able to come on and chat.
And it's crazy because like my business partner and I say like, wow, like, because we both, just the way I described my, my story, when we discuss it, it's like, she's like, I was the same way. And, so we laugh now because we're like, who would have thought we would have been selling dime bags? I was totally against for my kids even smoking or, bringing that to the house.
Who would have known I'd be a legal drug dealer?
Yeah. Now we have, we have the pre-rolls, we have the dime bags, we have, the edibles. And
that's so funny. Oh my gosh.
So, yeah. But yeah.
How do your kids react now? Like, do they think it's crazy or like weird? Do they think that's?
Yeah. Well, now they're like, Mom, like, wow. I remember when you would like be pissed off at us and we get in trouble. And so now they tell their boyfriends, girlfriends, fiancés, whatever. They're like, yeah, because now they see like, they're like, but they see they're like, man, they talk about the passion and, and I'm like, yeah, because I just want to help others because not only did I go through this, but my family went through it as well. My kids had to grow up and, start working early and, it was a struggle. Like we all dealt with it together.
Well, I'm so glad that you've made it this far. It's like night and day from watching how you started telling your story to where you are now. And I just think that even just this little glimpse that I'm seeing in the screen is crazy to see the transformation. And I can only imagine how proud your family is of you for finding this. And the only thing I can say to how you're explaining how you treated your kids about it and when they were young and how I reacted to it when I was younger, it's just the lack of education, not understanding. Yes. It was that we were more afraid of that propaganda that was thrown at us and what we were taught growing up. And now that we understand the science and how this plant actually works, it's more so kind of navigating how to break the stigma of the public.
And keep sharing, and because I know a lot of people have said too, like, oh no, I can't try it, it's addicting or, I'm like, it's lack of education.
Yeah. And I like to say to that, the addicting part of it is because you feel so much relief. You're addicted to the ability, how full you feel.
Exactly.
You're addicted to the ability to show up as a person versus be a zombie to these medications.
Yes. Or, even
hostage to the pain.
Yes, exactly. It's, and that's my main goal is to educate and keep advocating. And, even if they're not users or even if they don't use it, I just feel that someday they may know someone that is going to need it if it's not themselves. So they'll be able to pass it on, pass on the knowledge and just keep moving forward with it. You don't have to be a user to learn more on it.
No, and I love that you brought that up because I feel like sometimes I end up getting on what my sister calls my soapbox. But it's because it breaks my heart to know, like we went to Myrtle Beach a couple of years ago and her oldest son was 5 at the time. And on this placard in our room was like all the things you can't do, like all the like circles with X's or through it or whatever. And there was a cannabis leaf on it and he called it a pointy flower. And he said, no pointy flowers in here. And my sister said, yeah, no, they're dangerous. And then and I mean, he's 5. I'm not saying like you have to educate him that young, but the quickness of her response to say, no, it's dangerous or no, it's bad, instead of using it as an opportunity to kind of start breaking those beliefs.
Exactly. Yes.
I'm not saying like at 5 or 3 years old, they needed to understand that cannabis isn't a drug or it's not dangerous or whatever. I'm not saying you have to go that far, but changing the way we're speaking about it, whether or not we're users or consumers of it.
Exactly.
The only way we're going to see a real difference. Otherwise, these kids are going to grow up. And that was my idea as an aunt. Looking back, I'm like, by telling them it's bad and something they need to stay away from, they're more likely to binge in it when it's presented to them and use it incorrectly versus educating them on how to use it properly and what it's used for versus letting them experiment on their own from what their friends are telling them.
Yeah. Or that's a good thing is because like I know I was just telling my mom the other day, because we still talk about it, now that she's open with it. And so we still talk about it. And I was just telling her that I wish I was more educated on it back then, because it's like, I feel that a lot of people that use it, it's for a reason. Because if you know that it's helping, you're going to keep using it because you see the difference. Well, I say now as a user, and I think, man, if I would have known back then, I would have wanted it's helping my kids, or it helped them, or let's get you the good stuff. Like I would have been like, let's go, don't get it wherever you're getting it. Because I would want to make sure that they were getting something that was, now that I know more on it, I'd want to make sure.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. And I think that's kind of my biggest hope in seeing more and more dispensaries pop up and more states getting on board, and they're becoming a more regulated system, because I don't think everyone's looking at the bigger picture of, if we have a regulated market where we know this product is coming from and we know it's safe, we know what they're getting, why is that not more of a motivation to get it up and running? Yes. I'm not saying that in regulated markets you see that much of a decline in the black market. I'm not saying that. I won't make any claims like that, but I would think that that's more of a appealing option to know where that product is coming from. Like in Ohio, we have a tracking system that is seed to sale. So they track by number, by a barcode, from the time it's a seed to the time it is in the customer's hand. And I don't know.
It's amazing. It's amazing because we know that someone is actually, putting more into it and making sure, and it helps us. I guess I feel like, as far as like, we're going to know our product. Mm-hmm. It's not something that someone just grew and they came and sold it to this person. And then,
it's something you can stand behind.
Yes,
for sure. All right. Well, I better let you go. I kind of kept you over our time limit, but that's all right. I loved hearing your story. I can't wait to see where you go with your business. And please remember to send those links to me. I'll bug you for it.
Yes, no, I will.
I'll message you if you don't, but I'm not exactly sure when we're going to be releasing this, but I will certainly let you know ahead of time, so you can kind of send it out to any platforms you want to send it out to. Okay. But yeah, do you have any other questions or things you want to say before I let you go?
No, I think that I think that's it. I'm going to look at my notes real quick, just in case.
Absolutely.
I think that's it. I just I just would say that being in the business, I know I'm not fully open, but being in the business and helping so many people, I've actually gotten to hear other people's stories as far as from a different, being like not from different age groups, being to where I do have one that as soon as I get the business going and not as busy, I'll be able to step back and take care of just the business part from a different standpoint. I would like to go back. I've got my notes, and just like the different people that I've helped. Well, I would like to have him interview. Well, one of them is, it's a he. I would like to have him. One of the stories that I liked, I love all of them, but I feel that from the way he explained it to me was, I said, you need to share your story because it's how he felt as a child growing up, severely ADHD and being on medications. And until, now he's a cannabis user and he's able to tell how he felt as a child.
Oh my gosh, I would love to chat with him.
So I'm like, and he's this one particular it's a family member, and we just have the connection because we know, but I feel like from that point of view, as how he felt as a child, and how the medication has made him feel like all the way to now that he's an adult, he says like he would never want to do that to another child, because it's what the medication puts you through. And, so I was like, that's perfect. Cause we've got a lot of kids that we have on CBD, and it's helping them with, their ADHD, with autism. And so it's great. So when I heard him give that site work, how he was when he was younger, and I thought, you know what, that's perfect, because that's what these parents need to hear coming from that side,
right? From somebody who experienced it firsthand.
And now he's an adult, and now he uses cannabis for it, so I thought most definitely, I was like, that's one that we definitely want to.
Yeah, that would be awesome to hear.
Because we have a lot of parents or families that have been contacting us that they don't want to have their kids on ADHD medications or anxiety medications. Right. So that's why I'm like, okay, we're gonna get your story out there.
Yeah, heck yeah, he deserves to have it heard.
Definitely, I'll definitely let him know and see. I usually get with him at least twice a month just to make sure.
If he's interested in coming on and chatting with me, I would love to hear it.
Yeah, because he'll be helping us at the shop, and just and that's another thing we do pick very closely, because we want to be able for them to explain if they have a question and we're not available, they're educated to speak for us.
Absolutely. Well, awesome.
So it was nice chatting.
It was great to chat with you. Absolutely. We'll chat soon.
And I'm sorry, I was probably a little nervous.
Oh, no, you were great. You were great.
Thanks so much for listening to this Conversation. To learn more, please follow us on Instagram at Midwest_CannaConcierge. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen, so other Canna curious folk can find us. We really appreciate